Level 1. The Inside Information Illusion. It is 9:30 in the morning on a Tuesday, and the world is already moving at a speed that John cannot comprehend. In a dimly lit bedroom in a gray suburb outside of Vancouver, or perhaps a cramped, overpriced apartment in Queens where the radiator whistles like a dying kettle and the rent consumes 60% of his take-home pay, the air is thick with the scent of stale coffee and the quiet, vibrating desperation of the modern middle class. Meet John. John is 34 years old. He has a degree in a field he no longer respects, a debt load that feels less like an investment and more like a ball and chain dragging through the mud of a stagnant, inflationary economy. He drives a car that makes a rhythmic clicking sound he's been ignoring for 3 months because he knows the mechanic's estimate will be more than his bi-weekly paycheck. He is currently staring at the cold, hard realization that the traditional path to prosperity, the one involving a 40-year career, an RRSP or a 401k, and a gold watch at the end, is a ghost story told by people who retired when a house cost 3 times the average annual salary instead of 15. John is tired of being the nail. Today, he wants to be the hammer. He sits on the edge of his unmade bed, the blue light of his smartphone illuminating a face that hasn't seen proper sunlight or a meaningful social interaction in 48 hours. He opens X, the platform formerly known as Twitter, because that is where the alpha lives. Or so he has been led to believe by the algorithmically curated nightmare he calls a social feed. He scrolls past the political outrage, the culture wars, and the AI-generated images of perfect lives until he finds it. A post from a verified account with a profile picture of a neon-colored primate wearing sunglasses and smoking a cigar. This is the guru. This is the man John has decided to trust with his financial future. The post is deceptively simple. It's a chart with a series of lime green arrows pointing aggressively toward the top right corner of the screen, cutting through a forest of Japanese candlesticks. The caption reads, "Something big is coming. The whales are accumulating. This asset is ready for a massive breakout. Don't say I didn't warn you." To the moon. John feels a physical sensation in his chest. It's a rush of dopamine, the same primitive chemical reward the brain gives a hunter-gatherer for spotting a berry bush in a barren wasteland. But John isn't in the savannah. He's in a digital Skinner box designed by PhD-level psychologists who make 6 figures to keep him clicking and hoping. He feels a sudden, frantic urgency. This is the fear of missing out, FOMO, manifesting as a physical weight in his stomach. He tells himself he has an edge. He truly believes he has stumbled upon a secret, a piece of inside information that the suits on Wall Street haven't noticed yet because they're too busy having 3 martini lunches in Midtown Manhattan or playing golf in the Hamptons. He thinks he's beating the system. He thinks he's finally the one with the hidden map. This is the exact moment where the trap is set, and John is walking into it with his eyes wide shut and his heart racing. What John doesn't understand, what his brain is biologically and structurally incapable of processing in this state of high arousal greed, is the concept of information decay. In the world of high finance, information has a half-life shorter than a fruit fly. It's the most perishable commodity on Earth. By the time that breakout chart was posted, by the time it was liked and retweeted 400 times, and by the time it reached John's feed between an ad for overpriced sneakers and a meme about a cat, the alpha was already dead. It wasn't just dead, it was decomposing in the sun, stripped of all its value by faster, smarter, and better funded entities. Any serious news, any legitimate shift in fundamental value, or any identifiable technical pattern was analyzed, quantified, and priced into the market hours, if not days, ago. The institutional desks at Goldman Sachs, the quant researchers at Renaissance Technologies, and the multi-billion-dollar hedge funds in Mayfair and Greenwich didn't wait for a neon primate on Twitter to tell them what to buy. They saw the move before it happened because they pay millions of dollars for direct exchange feeds, alternative data sets, and private signals that John doesn't even know exist. They participated in the move while it was happening, and now they are looking for a graceful way to leave. They are looking for someone to buy the shares they are ready to dump. John doesn't realize that he isn't early to the party. He is the person who shows up at 3 a.m. when the music has stopped, the beer is warm, the lights are on, and the hosts are looking for someone to help them move the heavy furniture and scrub the vomit off the floors. John is not a trader. He is not an investor. In the cold, calculating language of the Bloomberg terminal, John is something much more functional. He is excellent liquidity. To the giants of the market, John is a walking bag of cash waiting to be emptied. He opens his banking app, looks at the money he had set aside for next month's rent in Vancouver, a city where a parking spot costs more than a human soul and the housing market is essentially a global money laundering laundromat, and he transfers it to a zero-commission charting app. He hits the buy button. He feels like a king. He feels like he's finally taking charge. He is, in reality, a sacrificial lamb walking voluntarily into the abattoir, humming a tune he heard on a finance podcast. Level 2, the asymmetry trap. The order is filled instantly. A little green notification pops up, congratulating him on his investment with a celebratory burst of digital confetti. John watches the little digital line on his screen flicker. It's mesmerizing, like watching a digital heartbeat or a ticking time bomb. It goes up by 0.5%, then 1%, then 2%. John is now sitting on a profit of $60. He does the math in his head with the speed of a man who desperately needs a win to justify his existence. If it goes up 50%, he can pay off his high-interest credit card debt. If it goes up 100%, he can finally move out of this basement suite and buy a place in a neighborhood where the schools aren't falling apart and people don't yell at shadows. He feels like a genius. He feels like he has finally cracked the code of the universe that has been keeping him down since the 2008 crash. He decides to hold. He is diamond handing, a term invented by people who want you to stay in the burning building so they can use the stairs without getting crowded or slowed down. Now, let's pull back the camera and look at the actual landscape. Let's look at the reality of the battlefield John thinks he is standing on. On the left side of the screen, we see John. He is using a 3-year-old iPhone with a cracked screen on a home Wi-Fi connection that occasionally drops when his neighbor uses the microwave or when it rains too hard. His data comes from a free app that lags by several seconds, which in the market is an eternity, a geological epoch. His research consists of reading threads from people whose primary qualification is a high follower count and an absolute, chilling absence of shame. He is a guy with a plastic butter knife trying to fight a war in the 21st century, convinced that his intuition and gut feeling are enough to overcome $1 trillion infrastructure. On the right side of the screen, we see the institutional desks John is actually trading against. This is not a room of guys in suits shouting into telephones like it's a scene from a Scorsese movie in 1987. That world is dead. This is a sterile, climate-controlled data center in northern New Jersey, or just outside of Chicago, strategically placed to be as close to the exchange's servers as possible. In this room, there are rows upon rows of black server racks, humming with the sound of millions of calculations per second. These are the high-frequency trading algorithms. These machines are physically co-located next to the exchange's matching engine, because at this level, even the speed of light through a fiber optic cable is a frustratingly slow limitation. They use custom-built microwave towers to beam data across the country faster than light can travel through glass, just to gain a 3-millisecond advantage. While John is squinting at a blurry chart on his phone and trying to remember what a relative strength index or a moving average is, these algorithms are inhaling trillions of data points every second. They aren't just looking at the price. They are analyzing the level 2 inches order book, seeing every buy and sell order before they execute. They are scraping satellite imagery of retail parking lots in Ohio to predict quarterly earnings before the CEO even has the numbers on his desk. They are buying massive aggregates of credit card transaction data to see what people in Toronto are spending their money on at the grocery store before the Bank of Canada can even issue a report on inflation. They are scanning every news headline, every social media post, and every regulatory filing with natural language processing AI that can detect a shift in the CEO's tone of voice during an earnings call in the time it takes John to blink. John thinks he is trading against other humans. He thinks it's a game of wits between him and some other guy in a bedroom. It isn't. He is trading against a swarm of digital entities that do not sleep, do not feel greed, do not need to pay rent, and do not have diamond hands. These algorithms are programmed with one goal: to identify patterns in human emotion and exploit them for fractions of a penny, millions of times a day. They are the ultimate predators evolved over decades to thrive in the digital ecosystem. They know that John will get scared at a certain price point because of loss aversion. They know he will get greedy at another because of the gambler's fallacy. When John sees that 2% gain and feels that rush of ego, the algorithm on the other side has already mapped out his likely reaction with 99% statistical accuracy. It knows that retail traders suffer from disposition effect, the tendency to sell winners too early to lock in a small dopamine hit, and hold losers too long because they can't admit they were wrong. It knows exactly where John's stop loss is likely to be, because John, like every other retail trader who watched a 15-minute YouTube tutorial with a get-rich-quick thumbnail, puts his stop loss at the same predictable, round-number psychological levels. The machine is not guessing, it is calculating. It is an asymmetrical war where one side has a godlike view of the entire board and the other side, John's side, is playing with a blindfold on in a room full of razor blades. John thinks he's a player. In reality, he's just a data point being harvested in a high-speed digital wheat field. Level 3, the slaughter. The atmosphere changes. The breakout that the neon primate promised suddenly hits a wall. It's as if the asset has run out of oxygen. The price stops moving up. It hovers, vibrating with a strange, nauseating uncertainty that John tries to ignore by refreshing his app over and over. This is the distribution phase. This is the moment where the insiders, the early holders, and the institutional players who bought in weeks ago at the real alpha level start to quietly offload their positions. They are very careful. They are professionals. They don't do it all at once. That would crash the price too early and scare away the dumb money before they can finish the harvest. Instead, they use iceberg orders, slicing their massive sell blocks into thousands of tiny, 5-share pieces that look like normal, insignificant buying and selling activity. They need John. They need thousands of Johns. They need people who are still convinced the asset is going to the moon to provide the buy orders that will absorb their massive sell volume. Every time John buys a dip, he is literally handing his hard-earned cash to a hedge fund manager who is cashing out to buy a third vacation home in the Hamptons or a yacht in the Mediterranean. John sees the price dip slightly. He isn't worried yet. He's been conditioned to be a long-term investor. He's been told this is just a healthy retracement or testing support. He's been told to buy the dip and average down by people who are already out of the trade. So, he takes the last bit of money in his savings account, the money meant for his car insurance, his student loan payment, and his emergency fund, and he doubles down. He is now fully committed. He is all in. He is the perfect, concentrated dose of exit liquidity. Then, the trap snaps shut with the cold precision of a steel jaw. The institutional sell-off accelerates. The big players have exited the building, and now the algorithms shift from distribute to liquidate. They begin to short the asset on the way down, profiting from the very collapse they triggered. The dumb money begins to realize that the green arrows have turned into a vertical red cliff. The panic starts in the gut and moves to the throat like a cold, greasy hand. John stares at his screen. His 2% gain is gone. He is now down 10%, then 15%. Then 20. He tries to hit the sell button. His hands are shaking so hard he can barely hold the phone. He wants out. He just wants to save whatever is left so he can pay his rent and not end up on the street. But here is the final cruel irony of the free trading app. John thinks his broker is his friend. He thinks they are providing a high-tech service out of the goodness of their hearts because they want to democratize finance and power the people. In reality, John isn't the customer. He is the product being sold. His broker uses a system called Payment for Order Flow, or PFOF. They take John's sell order and they sell the data of that order to a massive market maker before it ever hits the public exchange. The market maker sees John's desperation in real time. They see that he is trying to sell at any cost. They see the exact price at which his heart will break. The market maker's algorithms front-run John's order, moving the price down just a fraction more before letting his trade execute. When John's sell finally clears, the price he gets is significantly worse than what he saw on the screen just a second ago. This is slippage. It is the invisible tax of the retail trader, the pound of flesh the system takes for the privilege of letting you lose your life savings. By the time John's order is processed, the price has gapped down through his stop loss. His screen flashes a notification that feels like a physical punch to the stomach. Margin call, or worse, account balance, $0. In the span of 35 minutes, John's rent money, his insurance money, and his pride have been vaporized. They didn't disappear, of course. Energy is never destroyed, and neither is capital. It is simply transferred from the disorganized to the organized. John's money has moved from his suburban bedroom to the balance sheet of a firm in a glass tower in Lower Manhattan that has more original artwork in the lobby than John has in his entire house. It has been converted into a tiny fraction of a percentage point of a billionaire's quarterly bonus. The algorithms process the transaction, the server racks in New Jersey hum a little quieter as they wait for the next wave, and the machine moves on to the next breakout to find the next batch of liquidity. John sits in the dark, the blue light of his phone now a cold, mocking reminder of his own insignificance. He is not a trader. He is a statistic. He is the fuel that keeps the furnace of Wall Street burning at 10,000 degrees. Level 4, the statistical autopsy. John is now experiencing the statistical autopsy. This is the phase of the trade where the adrenaline dies, the ego collapses, and the cold, hard math of reality begins to set in like rigor mortis. He looks at his empty account and wonders what he did wrong. He thinks he just needs a better strategy. He thinks he needs to study the Fibonacci retracements more or find a better indicator on his chart. He thinks he just got unlucky this one time and that the whales manipulated him. He is already planning how to make the money back with the next sure thing, not realizing that he is just preparing for his next donation. He is wrong. John didn't lose because he was unlucky. He lost because his loss was a mathematical necessity for the system to function. The modern financial market is not a wealth-building machine for the masses. It is a sophisticated harvester of retail capital. It is a giant high-tech vacuum cleaner designed to suck the small change out of millions of pockets and deposit it into a few very large, very secure ones. It is the ultimate expression of Pareto's principle, enforced by silicon and light. If you look at the fine print on any retail trading platform, the part they are legally required to show but hope you never read, the numbers are staggering and consistent. In the United Kingdom and the European Union, strict regulations force brokers to disclose the percentage of retail accounts that lose money. The number usually sits between 74% and 89%. Think about those odds for a second. If you walked into a casino in Las Vegas or a racetrack in Kentucky and the sign over the gate said 89% of people who enter here lose their entire stake, you would walk out and go find a buffet. But because the market is dressed in the respectable clothing of investment, financial freedom, and empowerment, John walked in with a smile, a bank transfer, and a dream. Let's look at the actual data, away from the hype of social media and the hustle culture influencers. A massive multi-year study by researchers from UC Berkeley and the University of California analyzed every single trade made on the Taiwan Stock Exchange over a 15-year period. A market chosen because it has one of the highest densities of retail day traders in the world. The findings were a brutal, bloody autopsy of the retail dream. They found that more than 75% of day traders quit within 2 years because they are wiped out. They found that only a tiny, microscopic fraction, less than 1%, of retail traders were able to consistently outperform the market after accounting for costs, fees, and the sheer mental tax of the game. That 1% isn't you. That 1% is usually someone with a background in institutional trading who is using professional tools. For the average person in the US or Canada, the market has been marketed as a way to escape the grind. In a world where wages have been flat since the 1970s, where housing is a speculative luxury asset, and where the cost of living is a runaway train fueled by central bank policy, we are told that we can trade our way to freedom. We are told that we can be our own boss and work from a laptop on a beach in Bali. But the reality is that the retail trader is the bottom of the food chain. You are the krill in an ocean full of blue whales. Your purpose is not to grow. Your purpose is to be consumed so that the larger organisms can survive. The system needs you to believe you have a chance. It needs the influencers to post the charts and the gain porn of a $100,000 trade that probably never happened. It needs the apps to make trading feel like a video game with confetti, haptic feedback, and bright, inviting colors. It needs the dream of the moon to stay alive because without the constant influx of retail capital, without the billions of dollars of dumb money being fed into the machine every single day, the institutional players would have no one to sell to. They would have no way to exit their positions at a profit. They would have no exit liquidity. Without John, the machine starves. John wasn't a trader. He was a donor. He donated his rent to a firm that uses more electricity in a single day than he will use in his entire life. He was a piece of fuel burned to keep the lights on in a penthouse he will never enter. The market didn't take his money because it was mean or because it had a personal grudge against him. It took his money because that is what it was designed to do with maximum efficiency. The house always wins, but in this casino, the house is a supercomputer that can see your cards, read your heart rate, and predict your next move before you even pick up the deck. So next time you see a chart with green arrows or a guy in a rented Lamborghini telling you about a hidden gem, that is about to change the world and make you a millionaire overnight, or a notification on your phone that an asset is ready for a breakout, take a long, hard look in the mirror. Look at the bags under your eyes and the balance in your bank account. Ask yourself if you are truly the hunter or the meal. Ask yourself if you really have information that 1,000 algorithms and 10,000 analysts missed. Because on Wall Street, if you can't figure out who the exit liquidity is within the first 5 minutes of the trade, it's you. It has always been you. And the machine is always, always hungry. It doesn't want your success. It doesn't care about your freedom. It wants your deposit. And once it has it, it will wait patiently for the next John to wake up, open his phone, and believe that today is the day he finally beats the system. Today is the day the lamb becomes the wolf. But the wolves are already waiting, and they haven't eaten in at least 3 microseconds.